Imagine pulling up next to a clean, unassuming sedan at a red light. No flashy decals. No massive spoiler. No ear-piercing exhaust. Just a quiet hum, a driver who looks calm, almost bored. But when the light turns green, you don't just lose, you get obliterated. That's the magic of the Toyota Chaser, Japan's ultimate sleeper king. The Chaser wasn't built to shout. It was built to surprise. A mid-size sedan that looked like something your boss might drive, but under the hood, it had the heart of a street legend. And now, this once-overlooked sedan is everywhere in Japan's car culture scene, drifting on mountain passes, tearing up straight-line runs, and showing up to meets where people whisper, "Don't mess with that one." Back in the 90s, Toyota was cooking up something different. The world knew about the Supra, the Celica, the Mr. 2. But the Chaser was the undercover agent of the lineup. One version in particular, the JZX-100, came with the legendary 1JZ GT engine, a 2.5-liter turbocharged inline-six that could easily handle 500-plus horsepower with the right tuning. Straight from the factory, it was quick. Tuned, it was a weapon. While the Skyline GT-RS and RX-7s got all the headlines, the Chaser was quietly building a reputation in the underground drift scene. It had the power, the rear-wheel drive setup, and the kind of chassis balance that made it a drifter's dream. Unlike the flashy sports coupes, the Chaser blended in. Police didn't notice it as much. Rival racers underestimated it. That's why it became the perfect sleeper build. Fast forward to today, and in parking lots lit by vending machines, you'll find Chasers lined up next to Supras and GTS, still holding their own. Owners swap stories about smoking Lamborghinis on the expressway or taking podium spots at local drift events. The Chaser is no longer just a sleeper, it's a legend in its own right. The real magic is the 1JZ engine, known for insane reliability and tuning potential. It's the same DNA that makes Supras famous, but the Chaser offers it in a 4-door package, meaning you can take your friends for the ride of their lives, or just make it look like a family grocery run. In Japan, the Chaser isn't just a car. It's a statement. It's proof that you don't need loud colors or huge wings to dominate. In the right hands, it's a silent assassin, and that's why it's going viral again. Social media is flooded with JZX-100 builds pushing 600, 700, even 1,000 horsepower. From professional drift circuits to midnight expressway runs, the sleeper king still rules. So next time you're in Japan and you see a clean, low-slung sedan cruising quietly, think twice before you challenge it. Because it just might be the Toyota Chaser and you won't even see it coming. If you love stories about legendary cars, hidden gems, and the machines that rule the streets, make sure to subscribe. This is Gearless Garage, where we uncover the truth behind the world's most iconic rides. The legend of the Toyota Chaser didn't stop with its production run. Even though the last models rolled off the line decades ago, the demand for them today is stronger than ever. Enthusiasts scour auction sites, import dealers, and online forums just for a chance to get their hands on a clean example. Prices have skyrocketed, especially for the JZX-100 generation. What was once an affordable sedan is now a sought-after collectible, with pristine models fetching premium prices in Japan and abroad. Part of the appeal comes from the Chaser's versatility. It's not just a car that excels on the streets or in drift competitions, it's also a comfortable daily driver. The interior is spacious, the ride quality is surprisingly smooth for a performance-capable machine, and when driven calmly, it gives off no hint of the power lurking beneath the hood. This dual personality is what makes it so dangerous in the eyes of rival racers and so appealing to drivers who want the best of both worlds. In Japan's car culture, the Chaser has become a symbol of respect. Owning one means you understand the art of subtlety, the value of engineering, and the thrill of unleashing power when the moment calls for it. At late-night meets, you'll find these cars parked in tight rows, each one with its own story. Some are built for full-blown competition drifting, others for high-speed expressway battles, and a few remain stock, preserved as rolling time capsules of Toyota's golden era. What truly keeps the Chaser's legacy alive is the community that surrounds it. Drivers share tuning tips, engine swap ideas, and rare parts. You'll find entire groups dedicated to the art of keeping these cars on the road, sourcing original trim pieces, and restoring tired examples to their former glory. In Japan, spotting a clean chaser still makes people stop, stare, and sometimes even bow in quiet respect. The tuning possibilities are endless. Bolt-on turbos, upgraded intercoolers, forged internals, standalone ECUs. Builders have taken the 1JZ platform to performance levels that would make even modern supercars nervous. The Chaser may be decades old, but in the hands of the right tuner, it becomes a technological powerhouse, capable of keeping up with or even surpassing contemporary performance machines. And that's why it's going viral again. Every video that pops up on social media, showing a humble four-door smoking sports cars worth 5 times as much, just adds fuel to the fire. Drifting legends, car reviewers, and influencers are putting the spotlight back on the Chaser, reminding the world why this sedan holds such a powerful place in Japan's car history. When you really think about it, the Toyota Chaser isn't just a sleeper. It's proof that performance isn't always about being loud, flashy, or expensive. It's about knowing what you have and knowing exactly when to use it. The Chaser's beauty is in its quiet confidence. It doesn't need to prove itself, it just does. And so, on the streets of Tokyo, in the mountain passes, and across the online car community, the legend continues. The Sleeper King still reigns. And those who know, know. The streets are quiet, but the air feels heavy with anticipation. A few blocks away, the sound of tires gripping asphalt cuts through the night. Neon signs flicker against the wet pavement, vending machines hum in the corners of dark alleys, and the faint smell of exhaust hangs in the air. This is Tokyo's underground, the place where the Chaser truly comes alive. 2 cars roll up to a red light side by side. On the left, a European supercar, low, wide, glowing with LED accents. On the right, a clean white Toyota Chaser, stock-looking, no visible upgrades except for slightly lowered suspension and perfectly polished factory wheels. The supercar driver smirks. The Chaser driver just nods, hands relaxed on the wheel. The light turns green. The Chaser squats down, turbo spools, and in a heartbeat it's gone, leaving nothing but a distant echo of its exhaust bouncing off the buildings. The supercar tries to catch up, but by the next light, the Chaser is already waiting, idle low and calm, as if nothing happened. This is what makes it dangerous. You never see it coming. No one expects a 4-door sedan to move like this. That's why it dominates the Wangan Expressway, why it's feared in drift circuits, and why so many drivers in Japan have stories about that one Chaser they'll never forget. In the mountain passes, the Chaser becomes something else entirely. Under the cover of darkness, headlights dance through hairpin turns as its rear end slides out gracefully. Tires screaming in perfect harmony with the turbo's whistle. It's not just speed, it's balance, precision, and the driver's absolute trust in the machine. You can almost feel the connection between human and car, the unspoken language of throttle, steering, and timing. Even off the streets, the Chaser holds its mystique. Parked quietly at a gas station, it blends into the background until you notice the details: aftermarket gauges peeking from the dashboard, a subtle intercooler behind the front grille, the faint hiss of a blow-off valve when the driver blips the throttle. It's these little cues that only true car enthusiasts pick up on, the silent signals that tell you this is no ordinary sedan. And yet, despite all its performance potential, the Chaser never loses its charm as a daily driver. You can pick up groceries in it, drive your family around, even pull up to a formal event without anyone suspecting it's a 600 horsepower beast. That's the true beauty of a sleeper. It hides in plain sight until the moment you unleash it. Every year, more Chasers find their way into the hands of dedicated builders. Some restore them to factory perfection, honoring the original design. Others turn them into track monsters with wide body kits, custom paint, and tuned engines that can challenge the fastest cars on the planet. But no matter the style, the spirit remains the same: quiet strength, unstoppable performance. The Toyota Chaser isn't just part of Japan's automotive history, it's a reminder that legends aren't always born loud. Sometimes, they whisper. And those whispers can shake the streets. If you see one tonight, just remember, it's already faster than it looks. In the heart of Tokyo, the midnight crowd begins to gather. Small groups of enthusiasts lean against their cars, sipping coffee from vending machines, the glow of the neon reflecting off chrome and polished paint. The sound of distant engines is like a call to attention, deep, throaty, and deliberate. Someone murmurs, "He's here." Heads turn toward the street as a white chaser rolls in, headlights low, idling smooth, almost whisper quiet. It parks without a fuss, no revving, no dramatic entrance. But the crowd knows. They've seen what this machine can do. Under that calm exterior lies a finely tuned 1JZ GT-E, its twin-turbo setup replaced by a single massive turbo capable of spooling into the stratosphere. The driver steps out, no flashy clothes, no attention-seeking gestures. Just another face in the crowd, but with a reputation that precedes him. Word spreads that a challenge has been made tonight. Not for money, not for glory, but for respect. A Nissan GT-R R35 has been prowling the Hwang'an Expressway, calling out anyone willing to line up. The chaser's driver doesn't say a word, he simply finishes his coffee, gets back into the car, and the group begins to move toward the highway. The expressway is nearly empty at this hour, the sodium streetlights casting long golden streaks across the asphalt. The chaser and the GT-R pull up side by side, their drivers exchanging a quick glance. There's no flag girl, no countdown, just the unspoken signal of both engines revving in sync. Then it happens. The chaser launches hard, the rear tires biting into the tarmac, turbo screaming. The GT-R surges forward too, but the chaser's acceleration is almost unnatural. Gear changes are sharp and decisive, the boost gauge spiking with every shift. The city blurs into streaks of light as both cars push toward triple-digit speeds, the roar of the engines echoing through the empty night. The GT-R struggles to close the gap, its high-tech all-wheel drive system working overtime, but the chaser's raw power and perfectly dialed gearing keep it ahead. By the next overpass, the chaser has already pulled a full car length ahead, holding it with surgical precision. They slow down, engines cooling, and without fanfare the chaser exits the expressway, slipping quietly into the city streets as if nothing happened. No victory laps, no burnouts, just a ghost disappearing into the night. Back at the meet, the story spreads like wildfire. The GT-R driver admits defeat, shaking his head in disbelief. "That thing's a monster," he mutters. The chaser is parked again, silent, unassuming, its engine ticking softly as it cools. To an outsider, it's just another old Toyota. To everyone here, it's proof that legends don't need spotlights, they make their own. But the night isn't over. The driver gets a call, another challenge, this time from a tuned RX-7 waiting at the base of the Hakone mountain pass. The chaser's engine fires up again, and the crowd begins to follow. Another chapter in the legend is about to be written. The convoy snakes out of Tokyo, headlights carving through the darkness as the city's neon fades into the black silhouettes of mountains. The air cools, the smell of fuel and rubber lingers in the night breeze, and the faint hum of engines fills the silence. At the base of the Hakone Pass, the group stops. The RX-7 is already there, low, aggressive, wearing a wide body kit that catches the moonlight. Its rotary engine idles with an impatient, high-pitched buzz. The chaser pulls in and parks opposite it, the two machines locked in a silent stare-down. No words are exchanged. The drivers know what's about to happen. Spectators spread out along the guardrails, phones ready, the sound of cicadas blending with the metallic ping of cooling exhausts. Engines roar to life. The RX-7's high-revving wail contrasts sharply with the chaser's deep, guttural growl. Tires squeal as both cars launch into the first corner, headlights darting across rock faces and dense trees. The mountain road twists violently, hairpins, blind corners, sudden drops, and yet the chaser stays glued to the RX-7's tail. The rotary sings above 9,000 RPM, darting through corners like a wasp, but the chaser's torque and chassis balance make it a relentless shadow. Each exit from a corner is a slingshot, the turbo spooling with a savage whistle before dumping power into the rear wheels. Halfway up the pass, the RX-7 driver pushes harder, tires on the edge of grip, sparks flashing as the exhaust scrapes the pavement. The chaser doesn't flinch. The weight transfer is perfect, the rear sliding just enough to angle into each turn, smoke trailing like a ribbon in the moonlight. It's not just fast, it's graceful, almost artistic. On the final stretch, a long, sweeping bend leads into a straight. The RX-7 goes all in, foot buried, rotary screaming. But the chaser breathes down its neck, and as the straight opens, the torque surge hits like a tidal wave. The chaser slides past with ruthless efficiency, crossing the improvised finish point 2 car lengths ahead. At the summit, both cars roll to a stop, engines hissing, brakes ticking as they cool. The RX-7 driver steps out, grinning, offering a nod of respect. There's no shame here, only acknowledgement. The chaser has proven itself again, not just in power, but in mastery of control. The crowd gathers around the air buzzing with excitement. Someone mentions an upcoming meet in Osaka, a gathering of Japan's most feared street machines. Rumor has it an R34 Skyline with 1,000 horsepower is looking for worthy challengers. The chaser's driver doesn't hesitate. The engine starts, exhaust growling low, and the convoy begins the descent, the legend rolling into its next chapter. The highway to Osaka is long, a ribbon of smooth asphalt cutting through the night, lit only by the occasional street lamp and the glow of the convoy's taillights. The chaser cruises in the middle of the pack, its engine barely ticking over, as if saving its fury for the right moment. In the distance, the skyline of Osaka glitters like a field of stars, the promise of another battle pulling the crew forward. Word has already spread ahead of them. By the time they reach the industrial district near Osaka Bay, the air is thick with the scent of fuel and burnt rubber. The meet is massive, rows of cars from every corner of Japan's underground scene. Supras with wide-body kits, R34 Skylines wearing midnight paint, RX-7s idling angrily, Evos and WRXs lined up like soldiers ready for war. And there, in the center of it all, sits the rumored monster, a deep blue Nissan Skyline GT-R R34, hood slightly cracked open, revealing an engine bay that looks like it belongs in a spaceship. Twin turbos the size of fists, titanium piping, and enough power to send shivers down anyone's spine. Its driver leans against the fender, arms crossed, scanning the arrivals until his eyes lock on the chaser. No words are needed. Everyone feels it. This isn't just a run, it's a clash of legends. The crowd forms a loose circle as the two cars idle next to each other, the chaser's deep growl mixing with the R34's sharp, mechanical whine. They'll race on the Wangan section leading out of Osaka, an open, high-speed stretch where power and aerodynamics matter just as much as bravery. Engines reverent. The sound is deafening, a chorus of mechanical violence echoing off the warehouses. The flag drops. Both cars launch hard, tires biting into the tarmac, the world narrowing into the streak of road ahead. The R34 takes the early lead, its AWD grip perfect off the line, but the chaser's turbo spools like an angry storm, and by the time they hit third gear, it's closing the gap. Street lights whip past faster and faster. At 200 km/h, the cars are side by side. At 240, the chaser inches ahead, its aerodynamics less sleek but its sheer torque shoving it forward like a freight train. The Skyline driver downshifts turbo screaming, but the chaser's response is instant. Every shift is brutal, every surge of boost violent. The speedometer climbs into territory where mistakes mean disaster, but both drivers are laser-focused reading the road and each other in real time. Then, just as the R34 tries one last push, the chaser holds steady, its exhaust bellowing a deep, victorious note. They cross the unofficial finish at over 300 km/h, the wind tearing past, adrenaline flooding their veins. They slow down, the city lights growing brighter as they roll into the next rest stop. The R34 driver smiles, shaking his head, offering a fist bump through the window. Fast. Faster than I thought, he says simply. The chaser's driver just nods, shutting the engine off, letting the machine rest after another flawless victory. The crowd knows what they've just witnessed. Another story to be told at meets in garages and on late-night forums across Japan. And as the chaser sits quietly under the fluorescent lights, it's clear, its reign as Japan's sleeper king is far from over. The Osaka meet winds down in the early hours, the air thick with the smell of burned rubber and overheated brakes. Engines quiet, conversations drop to a murmur and the crowd starts to disperse. But for the chaser's driver, the night is far from over. Word spreads about a drift event happening in Fukushima, a private invitation-only tournament where the best of Japan's sideways legends gather to prove their skill. The drive north is long, cutting through empty highways and rural backroads as dawn slowly bleeds into the sky. The chaser's paint glows faintly in the morning light, its exhaust tones softer now, almost meditative like a predator resting between hunts. By midday, the mountains of Fukushima rise in the distance, their winding roads and secluded circuits serving as sacred ground for Japan's drifting elite. When the chaser arrives, the atmosphere is electric. Rows of drift cars line the paddock. Silvia S15S with scarred bumpers, AE86S with mismatched panels, JZX90S wearing battle scars from years of competition. The air is filled with the sharp scent of tire smoke and race fuel. Engines rev in bursts, sending echoes bouncing off the surrounding hills. The tournament is simple, head-to-head battles judged on speed, angle, and style. It's not about raw horsepower here, it's about control, finesse, and the ability to make a car dance on the edge of chaos. The Chaser, with its longer wheelbase, isn't the typical choice for tight drift courses, but its driver knows how to make it work. The first battle is against a lightweight Nissan Silvia S14. The Silvia dives into the first corner, aggressively throwing up a cloud of smoke, but the Chaser follows with precision, using its torque to close the gap effortlessly. Every transition is smooth, every flick of the steering wheel perfectly timed. The crowd roars as both cars cross the line, but the judges nod toward the Chaser. Its lines were cleaner, its speed more consistent. Round after round, the Chaser takes down challengers, an RX-7 FD with razor-sharp angles, a turbocharged 86 that throws wild entries, even a fellow JZX100 running a wide-body kit and screaming exhaust. Each victory is earned, the Chaser carving its way through the bracket with a mix of brute force and delicate technique. The final battle comes down to a local legend, a matte black Nissan Silvia S15 known for outrageous entries and fearless proximity runs. The two line up at the start, engines snarling, tires warmed and ready. The Silvia launches first, throwing itself sideways into the opening corner at impossible speed, rear bumper nearly kissing the guardrail. But the Chaser is right there, mimicking every move, staying close enough for the crowd to see the reflection of its headlights in the Silvia's paint. Through the final set of switchbacks, the Chaser closes in even tighter, turbo howling smoke pouring off the rear tires in thick white plumes. They cross the finish inches apart, the crowd on its feet, the judges deliberating for a long moment before holding up the signal, victory to the Chaser. The driver shuts off the engine, the car rolling to a silent stop as the crowd rushes forward. Cameras flash, fans cheer, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of another engine starting signals that more challenges are waiting. The legend has grown again. The Sleeper King isn't just feared on the Wangan or the mountain passes, it's now a proven drift champion. And in the world of Japanese street culture, that makes it untouchable. The Fukushima crowd is still buzzing hours after the tournament ends, but the Chaser's driver is already thinking ahead. Victories like this don't stay secret for long. Word travels fast, videos hit underground forums, grainy phone clips rack up thousands of views overnight, and whispers of the White Chaser spread beyond Japan's borders. A week later, an encrypted message arrives through a closed online network used by top-tier street racers. The invite is clear. Bring the Chaser to Hong Kong for an underground showdown. No rules, no official track, just the city's elevated highways and tunnels as the battleground. The opponents? Some of Asia's fastest machines, including a heavily modified Porsche 911 Turbo and a rumored 1,200 horsepower R34 Skyline imported from Japan. The car is loaded into a container strapped down tight and shipped across the East China Sea. Days later, under the cover of darkness, the Chaser rolls out of the port, its tires touching foreign pavement for the first time. The Hong Kong skyline glitters in the distance, skyscrapers lit like beacons above the harbor. The meet takes place on a rooftop parking deck, the city's humid air thick with anticipation. The competition is fierce. Hong Kong's street racing scene blends European exotics with Japanese muscle, and the drivers here are just as skilled as they are reckless. The Porsche is the first to challenge, its twin turbos whistling through the narrow streets. The Chaser keeps pace effortlessly, its long gearing eating up every stretch of open road until it finally edges past in the Kowloon Bay Tunnel, the walls amplifying the howl of the 1JZ. But the real test comes at 3 a.m., when the R35 lines up on the Tsing Ma Bridge. The air is still, the water below reflecting the moonlight. The flag drops, and the two monsters launch into the night. The R35 jumps ahead instantly, AWD claws digging into the asphalt, but the Chaser reels it in like a predator stalking prey. At 250 kilometers per hour, they are side by side, the bridge's towers flashing past like sentinels. By the end of the span, the Chaser is a full car length ahead, its engine screaming victory into the humid night air. After Hong Kong, the Chaser's reputation is unstoppable. A new invite comes, this time from Sydney, Australia, where the underground scene thrives on wide motorways and coastal runs. The Chaser is flown in, attracting attention even before it turns a wheel. The Sydney crew brings out everything: twin-turbo Supras, LS-swapped drift missiles, even a McLaren 720S eager to put the old Toyota in its place. It doesn't end well for them. The Chaser tears through the coastal highway, salt air rushing through the windows, each gear change echoing off the cliffs. By sunrise, the Australian racers know the truth. The Sleeper King isn't just a Japanese legend anymore, it's a global one. And yet, despite the fame, the Chaser's driver remains the same: quiet, focused, always disappearing into the shadows after each victory. No interviews, no sponsorships, no flashy social media posts. Just an unshakable presence in the world's fastest, most dangerous nights. But there's one message that changes everything: an invitation to an event so secret, so dangerous, that it's whispered about only in code: the Midnight Crown. A race said to feature the fastest street cars from every continent, held on a stretch of road where speeds of 400 km/h aren't just possible, they're expected. The Chaser's next chapter is about to be written, and this time the stakes are higher than ever. The invitation to the Midnight Crown arrives not as a text or email but as a small black envelope left on the Chaser's hood one foggy night in a quiet Tokyo parking garage. Inside, a single card, matte black, embossed with a silver crown, lists only a location, date, and time. No contact number, no instructions, no rules. The driver doesn't hesitate. The journey begins days before the event as the Chaser is quietly loaded into a covered truck and taken to a remote airstrip. There, it's met by a private cargo plane already holding a lineup of machines from across the globe: a Bugatti Chiron from France, a Koenigsegg Jesko from Sweden, a Hennessy Venom F5 from the US, and a sinister black Lamborghini Huracan from Italy. These aren't just fast cars, they're apex predators. When the Chaser is rolled out onto the tarmac of an undisclosed Middle Eastern city under the desert moonlight, its modest body lines and factory silhouette earn curious smirks from the supercar owners. They don't know what's hiding beneath the hood. They don't know the streets this car has conquered. They will. The race course is a closely guarded secret until minutes before the start, an 80-kilometer stretch of pristine desert highway, blocked off by powerful figures with deep connections. The surface is flawless, the air dry, the night wind warm. The only light comes from the moon and the glow of headlights stretching into the horizon. Engines come to life, one by one. The deep, guttural pulse of the Chaser's 1JZ stands out against the higher-pitched wails of V10s, the thunder of V12s, and the shriek of quad-turbos. The drivers line up, 10 cars across, each one representing a country, a reputation, and years of underground dominance. A flare arcs into the sky, red fire against black. It bursts and the sound of synchronized throttle slams fills the desert. Tires claw for grip, turbochargers scream, and the convoy explodes forward in a deafening wave. The first kilometers are chaos. The Chiron rockets ahead, instantly raw horsepower launching it like a missile. The Koenigsegg is right there with it, slicing through the dark with its aerodynamic precision. But the Chaser isn't aiming for the whole shot. It's waiting for the moment when turbo lag, heat soak, and human nerves start to set in. At 250 km/h, the pack begins to stretch. The Lambo fights to keep up with the hypercars, the Venom weaving aggressively to gain ground. But the Chaser, steady and relentless, slips through openings with surgical precision, boost pressure climbing like a storm surge. At 300 km/h, it's in fourth place. The desert wind roars past the road, illuminated only by streaking cones of light. The driver keeps calm, hands steady, engine singing a metallic war cry. At 340 km/h, the Chaser makes its move. The Lambo disappears in the rearview, the Venom falling victim to sheer torque as the Toyota surges past with brutal force. Now only the Chiron and the Jesko remain ahead, their drivers locked in a duel for first, until the Chaser arrives. One slipstream, one perfect gear change, and the Jesko is left behind, the howl of its V8 fading into the night. The Chiron desperate pushes into the danger zone, speedometer brushing 400 km/h, but the chaser is there holding steady side by side in a battle of raw speed and bravery. In the final stretch, the road dips slightly, the horizon rushing toward them like a wall. The chaser's driver squeezes every last ounce from the engine, boost-maxed exhaust screaming, and crosses the finish line and nose ahead of the Bugatti. Silence. Then the distant cheers and shouts of the pit crew as the cars roll to a stop under the desert stars. No trophies. No champagne. Just nods of respect from the fastest drivers on earth. The midnight crown is the chaser's. But in the shadows, another driver watches, a rival from the past, one who's been chasing this moment for years. The next race isn't about money or glory. It's personal. The desert air still clings to the chaser's paint as it's loaded back into the transport truck, the engine ticking as it cools. Victory at the Midnight Crown has cemented the Toyota's name in the underground racing world, but it's also drawn dangerous attention. The man in the shadows that night wasn't a stranger. He was a ghost from the chaser's past. Years ago, on the streets of Yokohama, the chaser's driver ended a race with a brutal overtake that sent another competitor, a silver Nissan GT-R R34, spinning out and into exile. That driver vanished from the scene, humiliated, his car destroyed. Rumors said he'd left Japan. Others claimed he'd been building something faster, something meant for one purpose: revenge. Now, those rumors are reality. The R34 is back, reborn in matte gunmetal, its RB26 twin-turbo straight-six pushing an ungodly amount of power. Its driver, now known only by the street name Kaidō Oni, the highway demon, has a single mission: destroy the chaser's legend. The first message comes at 2:17 a.m., an untraceable ping to the chaser's driver's encrypted phone. No words. Just a GPS location and a time. It's an industrial harbor in Yokohama, the same place they last raced. When the chaser arrives, the harbor is empty except for the R34 idling under a flickering sodium lamp. The deep, uneven burble of its exhaust echoes off steel containers. The two cars sit in silence for a moment, exhaust fumes drifting like smoke from two dueling gunslingers. Then the R34's lights snap on, and without a word, it rolls toward the open highway. The race is pure violence. Both cars launch onto the Shuto Expressway, tires clawing for grip, engines screaming into the humid Tokyo night. The chaser's turbo whistles, the RB26 roars, and the speedometers climb relentlessly. Traffic is light, but the city lights blur into streaks as they weave between trucks and sedans, each driver reading the other's every move. Kaidō Oni is ruthless, cutting across lanes, using slipstreams, brake-checking at high speeds to unsettle the chaser. But the chaser is surgical, never losing focus, its long wheelbase and raw torque making it a missile through the straights. At 280 km/h, they hit the Bayshore route, the road narrowing, barriers flashing past at terrifying proximity. The R34 pulls slightly ahead, its turbos howling, but the chaser stays glued to its tail, waiting. Then, an opening. The R34 takes a risky inside line around a curve, the rear stepping out slightly. It's all the chaser needs. One perfect downshift, one slingshot exit, and the Toyota rockets past, the howl of the 1JZ drowning out the RB26's rage. But before the victory can sink in, flashing red and blue lights erupt ahead. The Kanagawa Highway Patrol has been waiting, tipped off by someone. The R34 brakes hard, disappearing down an off-ramp. The chaser's driver has no choice, full throttle into the chaos. What follows isn't just a race anymore. It's survival. High-speed chases through the city grid, alleys barely wide enough for the Toyota's mirrors, a cat-and-mouse game between steel, asphalt, and flashing sirens. The chaser escapes into the underground tunnels, engine echoing off damp concrete walls, vanishing into the night like a phantom. But the message is clear: Kaidō Oni isn't done. The next race won't be a test of skill, it'll be a war. And the battleground will be the deadliest stretch of road in Japan, the Hakone Turnpike, where one mistake means a fall into black nothingness. Rain slicks the pavement of the Hakone Turnpike, the mountains swallowed by a blanket of low-hanging fog. Street lamps cast dim halos of light onto the wet asphalt, but most of the road is cloaked in darkness. The only sounds are the whisper of wind through the trees, and the distant rumble of two approaching engines. The chaser arrives first, headlights cutting through the mist like blades. Its driver knows this road is a monster, hairpins tighter than a coiled snake, steep drops on one side, jagged rock walls on the other. This isn't a highway pull, it's a place where skill outweighs brute force. Then the R34 appears, its gunmetal skin beaded with rain, the twin turbos spooling with a predatory whine. Kaidō Oni steps out just long enough to make eye contact. No words, no handshake, just a slow nod before both drivers slide back into their cockpits. Engines roar to life. The air fills with the combined thunder of 1JZ and RB26, the sound bouncing between the cliffs. A bystander's flare ignites, painting the fog in blood-red light. It drops. Both cars launch, tires fighting for grip on the soaked surface. The first corner comes fast, a sharp left-hander into a steep drop. The Chaser's long wheelbase makes it stable, gliding sideways in a controlled drift, exhaust flames licking the rain. The R34, lighter and more aggressive, snaps into the turn with razor precision, inches from the Toyota's rear bumper. The fog thickens, visibility shrinking to just a few car lengths. Every turn is a gamble. Brake too late and you're airborne, brake too early and you lose precious momentum. The Chaser's driver keeps the revs high, the turbos whistle echoing like a warning siren through the mist. Halfway down the mountain, the R34 makes its move, diving inside on a tight right-hander, wheels kissing the cliff edge. For a moment, the two cars are side by side, rain spraying in arcs from their tires. The RB26 screams, the Chaser's turbo spools to the limit, and somehow, the Toyota edges back ahead on the exit, its torque ripping it out of the corner like a slingshot. But Kaidō Oni isn't finished. On the longest straight of the course, the R34 tucks into the Chaser's slipstream, headlights flickering in the Toyota's mirrors like the eyes of a predator. The moment the straight crests and dips, the GT-R slingshots past, taking the lead for the first time. The Chaser's driver feels the stakes in every muscle. Pride, history, and survival are all tangled in this race. On the final sector, a brutal sequence of back-to-back hairpins, the Chaser takes risks it never should, cutting the apex so close that sparks fly from the undercarriage. The gap closes. One corner left. The R34 enters first, rear end kicking out wide. The Chaser dives into the inside line, inches from scraping the cliff wall. Tires scream, rain sprays, and the two cars explode out of the turn. Side by side. The finish line appears in the fog, white paint flashing under their wheels. Both cross almost simultaneously, the sound of their engines deafening in the cold mountain air. Silence. Then, as they roll to a stop, a few soaked onlookers approach with wide eyes, unable to call a winner. Kaidō Oni steps out, breathing hard, his expression unreadable. Finally, he smirks, not in defeat, but in acknowledgement. The Chaser's legend survives another night. But now, the rivalry has evolved. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about who will own the streets when the final, inevitable race comes. The fog of Hakone still lingers in the Chaser's mirrors as it rolls back into the city, engine ticking softly after the punishing descent. Whether it won by a fraction or tied with Kaidō Oni doesn't matter tonight. The streets know who showed up, who pushed their machine to the edge, and who walked away. For the Chaser, this wasn't just another chapter in its story, it was a reminder that legends aren't built in one race. They are forged in the long nights, the battles that leave your hands shaking, and the rivals who push you beyond your own limits. Kaidō Oni didn't just challenge the Chaser, he sharpened it. And this rivalry? It's far from over. The next race could happen anywhere, on icy mountain passes in Europe, in the burning deserts of the Middle East, or right back here on Japan's twisting mountain roads. One thing is certain, when the call comes, the Chaser will answer. To everyone watching, thank you for riding with me through another chapter of this story. I know I sometimes drop videos later than planned, and I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. I want every upload to feel worth it, to bring you deep into this world as if you were in the passenger seat. Your patience and support mean more than I can say. If you want to see where this rivalry goes next, make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and drop a comment with where you think the next showdown should take place. I read every single one. This is more than just cars. This is about the chase. And trust me, we're just getting started.